Hey there, Legal Tea listeners. This is your host, Jenny Roselle. Welcome back for another Legal Tea episode today, 113. Today's topic is a current trend, and on this type of episode, we dive into something going on in the current time or that I've kind of stumbled across on the news or social media that is pertinent to my estate and elder law world. Today's episode is going to be an interesting one, and of course, as always, a timely one. And it's going to be on the recent news regarding Michael Oher, who is the inspiration for the main character in the super popular movie a while back called The Blind Side. In case you happen to forget, or maybe you just didn't see it, The Blind Side was based on a true story and was about a kid in real life, that's Michael, who lived an impoverished life and ultimately was in the foster care system. He ends up crossing paths with Sean and Leigh Tuohy, which is played by Tim McGraw and Sandra Bullock in the movie. And they really embrace him as part of their own family. And super long story short, the Tuohys become Michael's family. He takes on football, he goes to college at Ole Miss, and ends up playing professionally for the Ravens. It's a really good movie, so if you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out. In real life, and I kind of say real life with quotes, in real life, the kid Michael and the Tuohys are very real life people. And mid-August of this year, 2023, their real-life story made the news, and not in a good way. According to an ESPN article, in Shelby County, Tennessee, Michael filed a 14-page petition with the local probate court stating that the Tuohys never adopted him, but after he turned 18 years old, actually about 3 months after he turned 18, Michael stated that they, quote, tricked him into signing a document making them his conservators, which gave them the legal authority to make business deals in his name, end quote. Furthermore, Michael's petition argues that they used the conservatorship power to make deals that, quote, paid them and their two birth children millions of dollars in royalties from the Oscar-winning film that earned more than $300 million, while Oher got nothing for a story that would have never existed without him, end quote. So with the petition, just so you kind of understand these court filing words, with the petition, you have to ask for something. I just can't file a petition with the court and say, I have a basset hound and not ask for something. So you have to kind of tell the court, hey, here are some facts, and this is what I want from you, court. This is what I'm asking of you, court, to do for me. So Michael's petition was asking the court to first terminate the conservatorship, second, issue an injunction which would not allow the Tuohys to use his name and likeness, which is like his brand, so to speak. Third, to see an accounting of the conservatorship assets. And fourth, to have the Tuohys pay him his share of the profits, including damages. Wow, those are some serious allegations and some serious, intense requests. So following the file of this petition, of course, this all started hitting the news, and you probably caught it on the news or social media. And as the ESPN article shares, the Tuohys did not immediately return phone calls from reporters. And additionally, their attorney kind of kept close-chested too, but did say that the family would file a response to Michael's petition soon. But shortly after this initial hustle-bustle that happened on the news and social media, Sean Tuohy shared with the Daily Memphian that he was, quote, stunned by Michael's allegations and said they did not make any money off the movie, only a share of proceeds from Michael Lewis's book, which was the foundation for the film, end quote. And he further doubled down and said that he and his family were devastated and that, quote, it's upsetting to think we would make money off of any of our children, but we're going to love Michael at 37 just like we loved him at 16, end quote. This has really become a game of he said, she said so far, because like the ESPN article mentions, in a book by the Tuohys, which was released in 2010 called In a Heartbeat, Sharing the Power of Cheerful Giving, they shared that they divided the money profits in 5 ways. But wait, I thought Sean just said that there wasn't any, that they didn't earn any money or profits. But anyway, so between the dad-mom Tuohy, so mom and dad Tuohy, Michael, and Tuohy's 2 biological children, supposedly things were split 5 ways according to their book. So they say that Michael did get a share, and Michael says he did not get anything. There's a short blurb in the ESPN article that I really think summarizes this unfortunate situation. And it reads, quote, "The petition marks a sharp break in what had been an inspiring, if unsettlingly stereotypical, feel-good story. As the movie portrayed the story, the Tuohys adopted Oher, a poor, virtually homeless, and academically challenged Black teenager. They made Oher part of a functional family for the first time. They helped him catch up in school, taught him the basics of football, and how to harness his physical skills, putting him on the road to sports stardom. The truth, however, was more complicated," end quote. Weirdly, reading that, I'm reading it now and reading it when I first was doing the research for this episode, it kind of reminds me of when people say, there's what is on social media and what happens in real life. It kind of feels very similar, right? So all of that was that initial saga. That all happened in mid-August of 2023. So now we're sitting here in September of 2023, and for reference, I'm recording this in early September, but this episode won't be released until later on in September. So if something happens between now and then, this episode's totally not going to be up to date, but that's okay. Following the initial saga, there were, of course, as standard court proceedings would have it, some subpoenas filed, specifically on Alkin Entertainment, which is the production company behind the Blindside movie, Creative Artists Agency, which is the talent agency the Tuohys worked with, and on Memphis Shelby County School System, which is the school system Michael attended. Right now, beyond some statements here and there from each side's lawyers, that's about where we stand, honestly. Kind of the big latest court thing was these subpoenas being filed. As of this moment, in early September, when I'm recording this, the Tuohys have not formally responded to the court on Michael's petition. Though I have to assume at some point very, very soon, and heck, maybe even between me recording this and it getting released to you all, that we may either see a formal response from the Tuohys with the court, or we may even see a settlement. Many times these kind of things, including in real life, like here in good old normal Indiana, things get settled outside the courtroom. I think I heard a statistic once, and don't put much stock into this because I've just heard it, that like 2% of cases actually end up, quote, going to court. And when I say quote, going to court, I mean like duking it out in a courtroom, like with a trial and everything. Most of the time things get settled for about 1 trillion different reasons. But I really could see the Tuohys wanting to settle, to make this go away, whether they did anything wrong or not, honestly. It's just hard to have and watch your name and reputation get slaughtered in the news and social media and the court docket. So we'll see if they settle, or we'll see if they file a formal response. The ESPN article mentioned something too that I wanted to discuss here because I think it's important. It's a really important takeaway for this episode. It shares, quote, "There are some important legal distinctions. If Michael had been adopted by the Tuohys, he would have become a legal member of their family, and he would have retained power to handle his own financial affairs. Under the conservatorship, Michael surrendered that authority to the Tuohys, even though he was a legal adult with no known physical or psychological disabilities, end quote. We have talked about here on this podcast, we've talked about this idea of conservatorships, and in other states it's called guardianship. And we've seen it before and talked about before here on Legal Tea, Britney Spears, for example, or Amanda Bynes, both once were under a conservatorship or a guardianship. And I'm sure we've seen it with others that I'm just not, immediately thinking of right now. But I think it's worth another discussion and some time to revisit this topic of conservatorship and guardianship. So first, how do guardianships and conservatorships even fit into my little estate world? Well, first, as a reminder, here in Indiana, we call them guardianships. We certainly don't see them done, hardly at all, if ever, for celebrities. But where we do commonly see them are really in two situations. First, we very often help clients gain guardianship over children who may have special needs. And with turning 18, that child becomes, legally speaking, an adult. So sometimes kiddos who are about to turn 18, the parents or whoever may be, wanting to be the proposed legal guardian, they want to maintain being the child's decision maker. And a guardianship or conservatorship is the legal procedure to make that happen. Second, in my normal little estate world, we help clients also gain guardianship over aging adults who may be experiencing significant cognitive impairment. So think like advanced dementia, Alzheimer's, etc., where the person, due to their cognitive impairment, needs further assistance with decision making. So often we see this become a thing if the person does not have estate planning documents like a power of attorney, or maybe their power of attorney just isn't strong enough and the person is, just trying to help with the decisions and hitting roadblocks. So here with Michael, it likely kind of fell in the middle. And at the time it was established, Michael was just north of 18 years old. But it was likely proven to the judge that appointed the Tuohys as conservators that he needed help with decision making. And as it was discussed earlier in this episode, Michael signed off on it, saying that at that time he agreed to them serving as his conservators. Also here in my little normal, not celebrity world, if we are looking at obtaining guardianship over someone, it's worth noting the process. So many have learned through this story, as well as Britney Spears' story and Amanda Bynes' story, that this conservatorship guardianship is a court process, which means individuals hire an attorney to assist them. Sorry, there's a really loud tractor that's going by right now. Which means individuals hire an attorney to assist them through the proceeding. It involves a lot of paperwork, a court hearing, and ultimately the judge decides whether this proposed guardian is appropriate and a suitable person to make decisions for this person. So anchoring back to Michael again, when the conservatorship was established, clearly the Tuohys met that burden of showing to the judge that there was a need for a guardianship. And the judge agreed with their argument because the conservatorship got established. And just a little bit more on conservatorships and guardianships before we wrap up. Generally speaking, there are often two types. The conservator guardian can be the conservator or guardian of the person, and secondly, of the estate. Now, of the person means you have the authority to make decisions about the person. So think like healthcare decisions, where the person should reside, where they should attend school, etc. And of the estate means you have the authority to make decisions about the person's financial and legal affairs. So for this, think applying for governmental benefits or accessing bank accounts or working with financial professionals or, contracting like here with, a talent agency or whatever. Here with Michael, it's very likely they had both, but clearly at the very least, they were at least over his estate. if they were able to make and manage deals on Michael's behalf, but they very likely had both. And the estate piece is really what Michael is wanting an accounting for, right? Of what they did on his behalf. All in all, this story on Michael and the Tuohys sure is not over. So make sure, you're following for updates on this story. And if it warrants another legal tea episode, I'll definitely do another one. If they settle soon, that will likely be the end of it. But if the Tuohys put on their boxing gloves, that may warrant another episode here. So kind of stay tuned for updates on this unfortunate situation. Alrighty, I am out of time, my friends, so let's wrap this episode up. Next week, we are going to dive into what happened estate-wise following the passing of the well-known Sopranos actor, the Tony Soprano, James Gandolfini. He had a lot of moving parts in his estate proceedings, so just make sure to tune in next Tuesday. We'll dive into that next Tuesday. Talk to you then, and stay well.